Hello and welcome to yet another milestone in our learning journey with our guest, Dr. Ashish Pradhan. We have had some very interesting conversations thus far, and I am really looking forward to another intriguing discussion today with him. Welcome, Dr. Ashish.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back, Monica.
All right, so we'll start with the question, which is the relationship between the autonomic nervous system and this particular energy center that we are discussing today, which is the fourth one, and which organs does this energy center relate to?
Sure. So, as we have always said in the previous episodes, as we look at the Sahaj principles and the relationship between energy centers and the organs that it controls, the fourth energy center, also called the Anahata chakra, basically controls multiple absolutely vital organs. The first one, of course, is the heart. The second one is the entire respiratory system, which is the tracheobronchial tree, which is the trachea, the bronchi, basically, and the lungs, basically, both of them. And another gland, which is called as a thymus gland, which sits here in front of the sternum, and which is related to our immunology. And we'll come to that later. But that is basically what this energy center controls. Now, to get into a little more detail, this energy center essentially controls the heart probably through the cardiac plexus. The cardiac plexus is a group of nerves that have both parasympathetic and sympathetic components of the autonomic nervous system. We have said this all along. The autonomic nervous system has two components: parasympathetic, which is sort of rest and digest, sympathetic, that is more related to flight and fight. And today we are going to discuss this extremely critical component or this critical aspect of the human physiology. So the cardiac plexus essentially controls the heart rate as well as the force of contraction of the heart. And both those things are very important. With that, it also helps to regulate our blood pressure. So that's as far as the heart is concerned, and we'll come to that a little later in today's session. The other component of with the way this chakra controls the most important organ, the other most important organ within this anatomical space, are of course our lungs and the tracheobronchial tree, and that is basically controlled through the vagus nerve, not the cardiac plexus. So the vagus nerve, we have discussed previously, is a nerve that originates in the brain, in the midbrain, and it is the predominant aspect of the parasympathetic nervous system. So it is through the vagus nerve that both the lungs as well as the trachea and the bronchi, which basically is like a tree that allows the air to come in, oxygen to be exchanged, so on and so forth. So that is the importance of this energy center. So to repeat or once again to paraphrase, through the cardiac plexus, this energy center controls the heart, its heart rate, its contractility, and then through the vagus nerve, it probably, controls the function of the lungs and the entire respiratory system. It also controls the functioning of the thymus gland, which is an endocrine gland, which is an immunologically very important gland, but we'll come to that a little later.
So, when we talk about this energy center, is there a relationship between this energy center and the nervous system at a human evolutionary level, or maybe, at the embryological level?
Absolutely, it is tremendously fascinating that this energy center uh, at, at at an embryological level, what happens is when the embryo is basically formed, uh, it is basically just a group of cells, and then as everybody knows, it starts off as a zygote, and then basically it starts dividing. And what is formed initially is a single line of cells. That it's a And through that, within that single sort of line, it's like a column of cells. It has a cephalic end, which you might say like a head end, and a caudal end, which is the back end. And there are cells that are formed at the level of the cephalic end, which means at the head end of this little column of cells, which are later on differentiated into what are called as cardiogenic cells. Cardiogenesis means the genesis or the birth of the heart, and these cells essentially are formed at the head end of this little group of cells in a column, and then they migrate downwards as the embryo basically starts differentiating into multiple organs, and that is how the heart is formed, and thereafter the blood vessels, so on and so forth. So it is very interesting to know that the origin of the heart as an organ actually begins at the apex of the human organism, even as it is being formed. And this has very profound implications by way of inference of human spirituality. And we'll talk more about this also in this episode, but also when we talk about it at the last episode, when we talk about the seventh energy center. So the origin of the heart literally begins in the crown of, or what is the crown end of this little organism. And by week 21, the heart is already pumping blood to sort of allow for the oxygenation and the health of this organism. So from that point of view, from an evolutionary point of view, this energy center controls literally the existence of the organism, because without that there would be no organism. The viability of this organism, what that is us, each and every one of us, when we were conceived in our mother's wombs, would not be possible. So that is at that sort of a level, at the embryological level. At an evolutionary level, basically, it is obvious that as humans, as you know, we have seen from unicellular bacteria when life began in the very first episode, when we talked about the first energy center, its differentiation, its gradual evolution into multicellular organisms. It is entirely possible that it is due to this energy center that the better differentiation started happening. So if you look at these small organisms, let's say fish, right, in the aquatic life forms, and we look at the circulatory system, it goes on evolving to from a single chambered organ, so called the heart. Obviously, from a single chambered organ it goes to a two chambered organ. It then becomes a three chambered organ in birds, for example, and then in mammals such as us it becomes a fully four chambered heart. So this energy center basically plays that critical role, or that has played probably this role in the evolution from fish and from those kinds of organisms, from amphibians to terrestrials to birds to vertebrates, and that is us human beings. And this has been important because as the human body became more and more complex, essentially as vertebrates and mammals became more and more complex, the metabolic demand for oxygenated blood was therefore more required, and that is why the differentiation of the heart between a single chamber right up to a four chambered heart with complete partition between the atria, which is on top, and the ventricles, which are below, the left side of the heart that deals with oxygenation of the blood, the right side, or which basically pumps out oxygenated blood, right side basically pumps out the deoxygenated blood into the lungs. All of that organization, if you will, is basically was governed, that entire evolutionary process was governed probably by this fourth energy center. Again, to paraphrase, our very existence and our continued existence depends on this energy center, because it controls the heart and the lungs.
Very nicely explained. Yeah, I think this is really, really very helpful information. So this brings me to, just another question, that there is this expression that the heart is the spark of life. Now, is there any truth or a spiritual correlation herein?
Absolutely. So it is kind of metaphorical, but if we essentially examine how does the heart function, so within the upper right chamber of the heart, the right atrium, there is a small group of cells. It is called as the sinoatrial node. And this is a highly specialized group of cells. So what happens here is, we discussed in the very first episode, I believe, what causes the generation of an electrical impulse within any cellular system. It is the inflow and outflow of potassium and sodium ions. They pass through these what are called as ion channels, and they create a difference in the polarity of the cell membrane, and that causes a change in the polarity that creates an electrical, basically a current, if you will, in this sinoatrial node. For reasons that we have still not been able to fully fathom, the movement of these sodium and potassium ions happens very fast, and it happens in a way that literally creates the spark of life, because it is from here that the impulse is generated in the upper right hand side of the heart, and from there it is transmitted downwards from the atria to the ventricles. And when that impulse is transmitted, it causes the heart to contract, and then it contracts and then it relaxes, it contracts and it relaxes, and it does that 72 times on an average for per minute. That is literally thousands of times per day, and in a lifetime of an average individual, up more than a billion times, a couple of billion times. So this energy, literally this energy, is the spark of life. The spark of life is literally generated within the heart, and this spark, the way, if it goes out of sync, or if it literally stops, then life is in many ways extinguished. So there is a lot of physiological truth to the fact that the heart is within the heart resides the spark of life. From a spiritual point of view, we say that it is the place where the soul or the atma resides. So there is an absolute synchrony or congruence to the notion that the atma or the soul or the spirit is the true spark of life from a spiritual point of view, and that is what Sahaj is really about, realizing our true selves, self-realization. But from a physiological point of view, there is 100% correlation that the spark of life literally resides within the heart.
So, Dr. Ashish, when we talk about heart, even, as a layman or whether it's in medicine, we know of it as a single organ, right? But I understand that within Sahaj principles, there is something called the center heart that relates to the sense of protection and security. So, is there any support for this principle at the level of human physiology?
Yes, there is. So what happens is, from a Sahaj point of view, we have not one but three hearts. We have one on the left side, one in the center, one also on the so-called on the right side of the human subtle system. But essentially, it is the fourth energy center, which we can say has got three aspects to it. So the center heart is related to, or probably governs, the function of the thymus gland. The thymus gland is a very important immunologic organ, because what it does is it produces the white blood cells of the T variety, which are literally called thymus derived cells. And these cells play an absolutely critical role in protecting the body from infections. So whenever there is an infection, whenever there is a, let's say, a viral or a bacterial or a parasitic infection, these are the cells that literally are the soldiers of the body that go out and they attack these foreign organisms, these invaders, and they destroy them. They help to destroy them. There are other kinds of cells, white cells, that are called as B cells, but these are T cells and lymphocytes, and these are kind of white cells, white blood cells, and they help to protect the organism. So the notion of protection comes from that point of view as well. Now it is somewhat interest to note that people who feel insecure or are depressed tend to have a greater proportion of susceptibility to infections, to autoimmune disorders. There are something in the, a lot of literature around it, that people who tend to be depressed, what we call in Sahaj as sort of left-sided, they tend to have a lot of susceptibility to infections and also sometimes to even certain malignancies. So it is possible to have that kind of a correlation. Is it entirely possible to have a one-to-one correspondence as to what causes what? The cause and effect relationship over a period of time will become clearer. But it is absolutely clear that at a physical level, from an immunologic point of view, the fourth energy center plays a very critical role in the immune homeostasis, or maintaining the immune profile or immune competency of the organism, and essentially allows for our survival. And at the same time, from an emotional point of view, it tends to give that sense of protection that allows us to overcome any kind of adversity. Adversity is a fact of life. Not every day is, all roses. There are difficulties that everybody has to face in their life. It is the way in which you face them, and it is this energy center that provides that kind of support to individuals to overcome that. So yes, there is very much a sense of being able to provide security through the function of this energy center.
So this is really very interesting. And then when we talk about heart as an organ, right? Is there something about heart which directly relates to the concept of collectivity in any way?
Yes, that is. It's a question I was really looking forward to sort of explain. So the heart is, it represents a very interesting physiologic paradigm. And the paradigm is this, that, just a few moments ago, we described how the electrical impulse that is generated in the upper right part of the heart travels across the entire musculature. Now, the heart is basically a muscular organ. It has no bones in it. It's basically just a mass of muscle. And when the impulse is conducted, right, the entire thing happens in less than a second. If you're beating 72 times per minute, obviously one cardiac cycle from contraction to relaxation has to happen in less than 1 second. So it is extremely fast, it's extremely efficient. But the beauty of this is that when the impulse passes, the entire mass of cells, there's millions and millions of cells that constitute the heart, the nerve fibers that the cells basically, the fibers that are made up of these cells, they all contract in unison. It all happens once. It's not like one muscle cell says, I will think about it later. Okay, and it doesn't function that way. If it functions that way, that is when we get arrhythmias. Arrhythmias are a break in the rhythm of the heart. So when the heart beats, it beats in this very beautiful cyclical rhythm. And that is literally what keeps us alive. The moment the heart starts going out of rhythm, that's when we start getting into trouble. So like heart attacks can cause arrhythmias, or some other things can cause what are called as arrhythmias. So the concept of collectivity as the heart basically represents is this, that when there is an impulse, all the cells of the heart, the musculature of the heart, the entire tissue, every cell, every fiber in the heart comes together and contracts together, and that is how they work together. There is no kind of, shall we say, notion of a democracy there, where a group of cells says, no, we are not interested in contracting, we'll think about this later, or we are dissenting. No, the heart doesn't function that way. It's not a political system, it's not a democratic system. It's basically a system where everything works together, and it works beautifully, harmoniously. And that, in a way, is the Sahaj concept also of collectivity. We will examine that more when we talk about the fifth energy center. But even at the level of the heart, this is where, at least for somebody like myself who has a medical background and is a Sahaj practitioner, I find that absolutely fascinating that when we say we are all part of the heart of a divine power, we are all part of this, one existence. We are all cells of a larger being. What does that mean? It actually means, even at a physiological level, it is represented within us that all the cells of our heart, basically all the tissues, all the muscle fibers, essentially work together for our benefit, for the benevolence of this organism. And that's how the heart, to me at least, represents an organ that symbolizes at a physiological, at an anatomical level, the spiritual concept of collectivity.
And it is just, so fascinating to learn more and more about, all of this from you. It just tells us that how nature has created such complex mechanisms within, you know, everything that exists as life on this planet. But this was really, really very helpful. And I would like to thank you, Dr. Rashesh, for your time today. And we definitely look forward to meeting you soon with our next discussion topic, which will be the Fifth Energy Center. And thanks once again.
Thank you, Monikaji. It was a real pleasure. See you soon.
And then we would like to invite and recommend our audiences to follow the video by the founder Shrimataji and get an experience of this meditation. And we will talk to you soon in our next episode.
Now the center one I have told you is the heart plexus, which we call as cardiac plexus, and it has got 10 subplexuses. And the English names for that, I'm going to give you the complete list. I don't know when we'll have time to go through the medical journal, but I'll find out all of them and I'm going to tell you what they call it in the medical terminology. But they know that there are 10 subplexuses which are supplying to the muscles of the heart, to the lungs, and to the right side lungs, and that's how we divide it. Keep your eyes closed. First of all, please put your right hand on your heart. All the time the left hand is towards me. Now, here you have to say, in your heart, with all sincerity, Mother, am I the spirit? Ask the question 3 times in your heart. This is a very fundamental question. Now bring the right hand on to the left hand side of your stomach, in the upper part. Here press it. Now this is the center of your mastery, your guidance, your Guru Tattva as they say. So ask a question, Mother, am I my own master? This is a question to be asked 3 times. Mother, am I my own master? Now, bring your right hand down below, in the lower part of the abdomen. Now, this is the center from which all the divine work is done. All the pure work is done. So to ask 6 times, because this center has got 6 petals. Mother, please give me pure knowledge. 6 times you just ask. As a result of this asking, the Kundalini starts getting awakened. Now to help the Kundalini rise, you have to cooperate with her. So please put your right hand on the left hand side in the upper part of your abdomen and press it on the stomach. Now here you have to say with full confidence to help the Kundalini to rise, Mother, I am my own master. This you have to say 10 times. These are the 10 commandments which you have to say. That, Mother, I am my own master. Now, 10 times with full confidence. Now, please raise your right hand to your heart. Now, here you have to say, again with full confidence, Mother, I am the Spirit. This is the truth. You are the Spirit. But you have to say with full confidence, Mother, I am the Spirit. This you have to say 12 times. Now one has to know that God Almighty is the ocean of love. But above all, He is the ocean of forgiveness. So He forgives. Whatever wrong you do, He forgives. So don't feel guilty and put your right hand across. On the left hand side, in the corner which is made by your neck and your shoulder. Now here you have to say, again with full confidence, 16 times, Mother, I am not guilty. Please say it. Mother, I am not guilty. 16 times. I am not guilty at all. Please say it. Please say it. Very hot. Now raise your hand across on your forehead. And it's a very important center. Here you have to say from your heart, Mother, I forgive everyone. Please say it from your heart. How many times is not the point. Mother, I forgive everyone. Now some would say that it's very difficult to forgive. But it's a myth that we do not forgive or we forgive. We do not do anything in both the cases. But if we don't forgive, then we play into wrong hands. So please say from your heart, Mother, I forgive everyone. Now please take your hand on the back agya, the same center, on the back side of your head and allow your head to rest on it and push it back a little bit. Now here, you have to say, for your satisfaction, because you always feel guilty, that, O Divine, if I have done anything wrong, Please forgive me. Please forgive me. From your heart. Stretch your hand fully and put your center of your palm on top of the fontanelle bone area, which was a very soft bone in your childhood. Press it hard. Press hard your scalp. Now you have to move it 7 times, saying one thing, which you have to ask for. Mother, please give us my self-realization, because I cannot force on you. So you have to ask for it. 7 times, press it hard and move it 7 times, very hard. Slowly, saying that.